So, hello and welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Pascal Steve, and on the other end, it is Steve Hall. Today, we are 1 day away from DASGym. So, when you're listening to this episode, we have been at DASGym, and it was probably an amazing trip. So funny because I think Alexander, so shout out to Alexander, he just recently did a post about that DASGym. And I was so how amazing it is and that it's the best gym probably in the world. I was like, I've never been to DASGym, and I actually think that it's probably the best gym in the world.
Yeah, just from looking at the videos and what everyone says. And I think it's because it's like, what makes the best gym in the world? Because I went to, in Vegas, I went to a few gyms in there, and it was like some gyms had amazing equipment, but other ones had good equipment, but a better like environment in that regard. So, but I think that's why DASGym seems so appealing, because it's like, it has the equipment, it has the environment. Like, what doesn't it have? I don't know, is it dirty or something? Maybe it's dirty. It's probably
even
very
then,
clean.
I think it's something that you could easily accept. And at least from the way that I see things online, they are very much also caring about leaving a good impression, putting the weights back in a reasonable order as well, and not just like stacking the illegal plates on top of another and all that kind of stuff, which is, I mean, it's just seems like a freaking fantastic gym, and I'm so much looking forward to that. And I even said to you just offline that I'm especially looking forward to a leg press. And I don't know why, but just as of late, I'm just like fancying very good leg presses.
Maybe I've influenced you slightly, I don't know, but I have been saying a little bit recently about, like, I have not had this kind of quad stimulus before, and part due to not having access regularly to a good leg press. And now, not that the one I'm using is amazing, but I've managed to kind of tweak it and use like the yoga blocks and things. I get a crazy stimulus from it, like never before.
Steve, what do you think is worse? Never having access to a great leg press machine, or having access to a leg press machine maybe just once that is absolutely the best leg press there is, or just like a couple of times throughout the year and then reverting back to your old shitty leg press?
I like to think that ignorance is bliss, but I don't think it very rarely is. I actually think it's better to have the experience of the good leg press so you can appreciate what that actually is.
But the scientific literature says otherwise, because when we're just taking a look at the studies that have been conducted around people who were lottery millionaires, they were worse off after the win than before, even though that their circumstances haven't really changed, that they are kind of living in the same environment, but they've spent basically all of their money, and they're now back where they were maybe before the lottery win.
But I could use, because that's quite like indirect literature. Isn't there literature supporting like going on holiday is like good for your like mental health and well-being?
I don't know.
But then you could say, well, you just stay at home all the time. Ignorance is bliss. You don't know how nice Florida is or Vienna.
Could be. Yeah, I do. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if both realities were actually the case, to be honest.
I think, at least, I guess I can talk from personal experience, because I was that guy who never had access to a good leg press. And to me, actually, I guess a good way to think about it for me is I used to not know what like good quad technique was on movements. And when I learned what good quad technique was, it was like, wow, amazing. I want to seek that out. So I don't know, maybe if you get access to that good leg press now and then you're like more conscious to try and find somewhere that has a good leg press, or at least try and manipulate your leg press to be better. Because like the Matrix one, I imagine people using that one in the gym, like there's a version that's better, but the one I had access to, like if people are using that legit as like that's their leg press, as if like we're using leg press, I'm like, I'm sorry, you're just the stimulus to fatigue ratio. Like that's the best way to put it, is complete garbage compared to, obviously it's individual, but I imagine, and I don't think I've ever spoken to someone who's like, yeah, the Matrix leg press, it fits me amazing. I love that.
And that's the one that I have at my gym. And you were just saying before jumping on the call.
It doesn't look like the one.
It is, I think it's one of the latest models, because that gym that I'm in, it has first opened last year, and they have all of the newest or latest equipment from Matrix.
I think they improved it then.
And I have to say that their leg press leg extension machine and also the leg curls have improved tremendously in comparison to the equipment that you had or have still in some of the gyms.
Yeah.
Like Pure Gym back then or so, right? It was awful, basically. And now it's actually pretty good. But that leg press hasn't really changed, unfortunately, much.
It looks better at least, because I think there's a few versions, because I know Mike Chalice, who we're also going to Vienna with in DASGym, he was using the Matrix leg press. I was like, man, how are you making it look like that? And he was like, oh, it's a slightly newer version to the one you have. Mm-hmm. So at least I guess they're taking feedback and improving it ever so slightly.
Yeah.
Still not
absolutely.
Amazing though.
And I don't really know why I'm fancying it at the moment so much. Maybe because it hasn't been that long since I was on a proper leg press, the one that I've told you about. And I just know how great leg presses can be. And I was just doing it here today as well, a leg press. So, and I was even telling you that on the leg press that I'm using right now, I really have to get in ankle mobility and really warm up, especially due to my right ankle still being a little bit iffy, unfortunately. So it always takes a little bit longer to warm up. And this is also something that I'm going to chat with Mike about, because I have the feeling that it's more of a tissue thing that limits now or kind of causes some discomfort. But because whenever I'm warming it up and I really try to kind of stretch it out and do some mobility drills, I actually am more so pain-free than when I go into that ankle dorsiflexion in a cold manner. Anyway, today was the beginning, or not the beginning, the third session of my overreaching week, and the sessions just take longer. And that's why I'm always doing leg press in the latter part of my session on my second pull day, and I switched things around. Today was kind of RDL session because that is something that I didn't want to do at DASGym. That's why I switched those around and did legs 2 first. And there I have the leg press basically near the end of my workout. And I couldn't really be bothered to actually then do some mobility drills before jumping on the leg press today. And I could immediately tell the difference when it comes kind of to a proper position. My low back is rounding significantly more than before. And yeah.
And you also wear squat shoes with additional heel wedges inside.
Yes.
So that tells you how, I wouldn't imagine your ankle mobility is like much worse than the average person. I'd imagine it's pretty average.
I mean, if you're just taking
leg press.
Exactly, when you're just taking a look at my Smith machine squats and hack squats, I can really go deep into the bottom. Yeah. And even with my ankle that has been fucked due to the snowboarding, I can still go deep. Right, so it's not really necessarily the issue there. To some extent, probably, but it's not the sole reason as to why I can't really go into a proper position on the leg press that I'm on.
With the leg press I have at Yorkies, it has that split plate. So it's almost like giving you a squat shoe in a sense, with it being that way. But even with that, I still find one of my heels is a little bit less mobile than the other one. It slightly comes off, and I have to be I have to get like the perfect to like millimeter foot position for it not to happen. So it's kind of like if it happens a little bit, I'm not scared. It's a little bit of a raise. It's not ideal, but it happens.
Do you have it as well, Steve, that every single time you go onto a machine such as the leg press, that you have to find your stance again?
On the leg press in particular. Yeah, absolutely.
So I always think like, okay, this feels great. This is what I'm going to remember for then the next time. Then I'm going in that next time. I try to replicate that. And it isn't the same, and then I need to readjust things again for then this session. So it is as if every single session I need to find my new stance, you know?
Yeah, it's not like on a Bible back squat. It's like muscle memory. You just hit that stance, you're like perfect stance. Even on Smith squats, it's like I know my stance on a Smith squat. But for whatever reason on that leg press, I think it is just that because we're talking about that, like I said, millimeters of difference. If I'm slightly out, like it's so hard I have to do like a few warm-up sets. I'm like, okay, now I'm in my groove. Okay, I found that foot position. And sometimes the second set can feel better than the first just due to maybe I haven't, and even doing the deep, like that deep first set, sometimes it just stretches out the ankle a bit more. And so the next set feels that bit better.
And also the adductors as well. I have the feeling that what I need to do, at least, especially on the first couple of repetitions, is to go really, really slowly on the eccentric to really open up the quads and get that ankle dorsiflexion under load. And then after that, it's most of the time a smooth ride. But especially the first couple of repetitions, which is also something that I'm then telling my athletes when they are sending me form videos on the leg press. And I know that they can go deeper, but on the first reps, it doesn't allow them to. I tell them like, okay, go very, very slowly on the first reps and let the weight actually then open up your hips. And then once you are there and kind of warmed up, you will have an easier time actually getting depth in.
Yeah, I think slowing the eccentric portion of like any sort of leg movements, like compound leg movements, like for me, a hip hinge, if I don't do that eccentric portion slow and controlled, like it's so hard to actually make sure that you're keeping the positioning all correct. And I find if people slow that eccentric, they actually can make sure to go deeper, because if they rush it, they kind of like everything just drops. Whereas if they keep those hips locked and they slowly sink, they're like, oh, they can stretch out a bit more. That's what I found, particularly on that, what's it called? The belt squat, where I can just like really slowly, I'm like, whoa, I'm still going, I'm still getting a stretch. And then I'm like, oh, that's it, and come up. Whereas if you rush that, it's like, how do you even know where you are in space? I don't know.
By the way, have you noticed that we have been talking about leg presses very often over the past couple of episodes?
We have, haven't we?
Yeah, I don't know what it is with
it's
the leg press on us. Yeah, probably. On that note as well, because you've been talking about hip hinges and you've been trying out the belt squat and trying to do kind of hip hinges there, RDLs on the belt squat machine, and you wanted to give it a little bit of time. Have you found it to be actually good? Did you get into the groove of things, or how is it now?
Yeah, so because I experimented with dumbbells for 2 or 3, I think I did 3 mesocycles worth, and I ran those also through my mini cup. And then I rotated them. Was it? I think I may have even, just this mesocycle, I rotated this belt squat in, and immediately on using it, it felt better than the dumbbells. The dumbbells always just kind of felt a bit like the barbell. Like it's fine, but it just feels quite fatiguing and heavy, and it never feels amazing to me. I've never found barbell or dumbbell RDL straight leg deadlifts to feel like when I think about stimulus to fatigue ratio, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it feels heavy. I feel kind of exhausted after it, but it's kind of a bit of a systemic just exhaustion. Whereas this was like, I could really control it, feel the stretch through the hamstrings. I was like, I still felt it in my lower back a little bit, like you would, because it's under load, and I still felt it like in my shoulders, but not in the same way. So it definitely felt better than kind of how the barbell and dumbbells were feeling. So I'm super happy with it, actually. I'm hoping it can be like a movement that I keep in for a while. I actually know you were using the Smith, weren't you? Or using that one day?
Once. Yeah. Due to systemic fatigue and not feeling great on that day, and just wanted to actually then lower the systemic burden, but still get a proper stimulus in on then the hamstrings. And what I will experiment with is something that I've already mentioned, I think 1 or 2 episodes ago. During the deload, I will then try things on the deadlift, or on the deadlift / Bulgarian split squat machine, where then try to find a way and actually then making it happen there, and just see how it feels, you know?
Yeah. I imagine it's probably like, it should be a similar setup to how it's going with me. So if you can get it like that, I think you'll really like it. And in terms of like practicality, it's so easy because it's, but like you can microload, like, because it's all plates, and then the plates are easier to get on than on a fucking barbell. Yeah,
that's what I imagine.
And then dumbbells, they're a pain in the ass because you have to go like move them around. They're really heavy, and so it's actually like you're reducing fatigue into like unwanted that's kind of junky fatigue, right? That you're like picking up plates, having to put it on, or moving around heavy dumbbells. Whereas this is like you do get rid of all of that. So.
That would be the downside of actually being humongously strong. So it's just like putting
plate after plate.
Especially on something like leg press. Just imagine, I'm just trying to imagine being someone like Charlie, for example. How fucking pain it must be. That's why it's good to then have kind of a lifting partner. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because it's such a... In some ways, like bodybuilding, it's very much like heavy weights, big loads, like lift a lot. But then, I don't know, is it maturing as a bodybuilder when you realize it isn't about the weight? It's about the stimulus that you're achieving through a muscle group. So if you can use less weight and still destroy a muscle group, that's better. But it feels so counter because it's like, oh, I don't get, like if I used half the depth I use on my Smith squat, I could chuck on another plate or something. It's like, yeah, great, another plate. But it's like, well, that's not going to lead to more hypertrophy versus the other way.
That's why it's so cool to see someone like Jared, how he's doing and things and how he's lifting as well. There's so much intent in the movements. There's so much focus on training a specific muscle group instead of just like going and rushing through the ranges of motion and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, though, I think there is probably also then something to be said to becoming strong, because if you're then able to have control at a very, very high load, I think then you're very much golden, you know?
Yeah, that's like it has to happen. Like I think people hear what I just said then and they're like, oh, so you're avoiding trying to get strong. It's like, no, I'm not. And you're avoiding heavy weights. It's like, no, I'm just trying to use the appropriate load for like the best stimulus, and then eventually hopefully use that crazy technique like the big stretch and the lengthened position, which seems to be really important for growth, with stupidly heavy weights. It's just you could use even stupider heavier weights if you used half that range of motion or what have you. So it's crazy to see when you watch like Charlie, Jared, Mike, and they're just like they're using immense technique and are just lifting so heavy. One thing I will say is though, in the final weeks, when I don't know if you're the same with me, Pascal, but if I see my clients in that final week and their technique, this sounds kind of counter, but bear with me, and their technique just, they're like not RAR and they leave it, and they at least have said that, but their technique still looks like absolutely pristine. You'd think that's what you want, absolute pristine, hit not RAR. But I'm like, if your technique doesn't at least look a bit like you're really trying and it maybe falters just a smidge, and I don't mean like terrible technique, I just mean, I don't know, it's a bit quicker or there's a little bit of momentum on that last rep, I'm like, do you really know you gave it your all? Like, I want you to really be like, almost get that animal of bodybuilder in you in that final week on that like rep or two final. Because if you're not getting into that kind of like messy, slightly messy territory that we don't want to be in all the time, I'm like, how do you know how close you are to it if we never see that?
Yeah. I think it's a very, very good point that you're making, because what I wanted to do here throughout this week is to record every single last repetition that I did and do an Instagram reel of it. Because each and every single set and exercise looks completely different to what a 0 or 1 RER is. Some movements you're really grinding through and it significantly slows down. Some movements you couldn't even tell whether this is truly kind of 0 RER, but you just feel it, you know? And sometimes I've even tested it where it's like, okay, now let's go for the next rep, and I couldn't even finish that rep. So for example, then on the consecutive sets on something like a seated leg curl, I did the first set, recorded that one, second set, didn't record that one, and then the third set, I really tried to then keep on going, and I couldn't, right? So I tested my ability to gauge my RER once again. And especially there, what I always look back on then the last couple of repetitions. And there are some repetitions that if you really want to be anal about kind of perfect technique, you would say, what are you doing there, right? But these are kind of, you have to really be anal about this. Yeah. And this is, I think, has become kind of also a little bit of the norm due to maybe also then the biomechanic crowd of like, if you're not doing this, then you're not hitting the muscle group to the highest extent. And I'm just like, I don't know whether this is really correct, to be honest, right? We're just making up assumptions of something that we haven't really truly measured here, to be honest. And on that note, for example, on then the seated leg curls, I like myself to actually then have my scapula touch the pad and also my glutes being on the pad, but the low back isn't really the entire time on the pad, right? And then you can tell, like, you squeeze, you're pressing your upper body into the pad, and that the low back always kind of comes off even further, you know? It's not that you're moving or so, but there's a little bit of movement in there to then use that little bit of momentum to move the load. And that is then also true on some other movements, such as I did RDLs here today, and I could see that the last rep was kind of like, okay, if you want to be anal here as well, there's a little bit of a low back rounding, but completely different. There's a complete difference to how I executed things in the past. This is still in the acceptable range of technique, in my opinion. And that's why I think you bring up a very, very good point. If you want to learn a new skill, no matter what it is, don't you think that things are a little bit kind of challenging at first and you don't have it figured out at first? So I always bring up the example of learning instruments. If you're learning some kind of new song or so, I don't expect you to just immediately have it all figured out and play that song perfectly. You will have a couple of mistakes here and there, but due to repetition, you're getting better, and in some couple of days or weeks, you have it all figured out and you can play it with your eyes shut, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And it's like you said, it's not that we're talking about like bad technique. It's like you're still in that range of like pretty decent technique, but it's like you do that rep and you're like, that's where you call it, because you're like, if I keep going, those are going to get some ugly repetitions now. And it's so funny that you said, we've talked about it before, where like RAR and failure or one or not RAR can look different for different exercises and different muscles, but it's just so true. Like just in general, I know pulling muscles, like a naught RAR does not look the same as a pushing, like when you're pushing, like you really can grind it out. Whereas when you're like a leg curl, an RDL, like any rowing, pull downs, like that you can't grind the same way. And maybe some of that's down to like the strength and resistance profile of it. Like it's harder where you're weaker and what have you. And maybe that's where you do some partials if you want to get like really your bro on, or maybe it's not even bro-ish now.
And often what I've found, and maybe you found it as well, Steve, that on some movements, such as, for example, pulling movements, you said it yourself, it's very hard to grind through those. But whenever I were to record something for the grams, for example, which looks amazing, of like shaking, super slow, concentric, I often already compromise my technique to such a significant extent that my entire system is just fatigue and not just the back muscles. So at least for some movements, when I'm already at a point where it looks great for an Instagram or so, I'm far beyond my actual failure point.
Is that for a specific muscle? Sorry.
Yeah.
Or just
exactly.
for back. Yeah.
So let's just to elaborate a little bit further on this. Let's say we are doing something like a lat pull down, for example. If I were to grind this movement, then I would need a lot of momentum. I would probably not even get close to my chest anymore, lean back a lot as well, right? And it's then, I always like to say, as long as your technique is in a range of like 80 to 100% of what I would deem perfect, right?
Yeah.
Then you're probably still fine. If you're then 5 centimeters off the chest, it's probably still all right, right? But if you're using so much momentum that you can't even tell whether your back is now doing the work or something else, or everything has now shifted towards your erectors and your bicep instead of then the back, then you're far away from the failure point. And at some point, those muscle groups will also then hit a true failure as well. And this is then where then the grams come out, right? Oh, everything's shaking. Everything's moving so slowly, like slow-mo, but it's not slow-mo on camera, right? And this is far beyond than the failure point. And that's what I was referring to. And I don't know whether you found it to be the same as well.
No, yeah, absolutely. Because it's like on I don't know, think about a leg press, bring up the leg press again, or like a chest press. When you hit those grindy reps, it's almost always like, as long as you're using like your good technique or whatever, it's hard to bring in other muscles to take over from that. It's like, it's hard to make the glutes be like, your quads are failed, but now you try and take over with your glutes. It's very hard to do that on a leg press. Same with like a chest press or something. It's hard to make the triceps now. Oh, your chest fatigue, now just use your triceps. It's not going to happen. But on the pull down, it's all like, you definitely you can get the momentum going, or like on an RDL, like you said, you can completely round your lower back. Now it's hitting just your kind of hamstrings are almost just like switched off. Now your knees are shifting a bit forward. So now you're hitting your quads, your lower back, your glutes maybe are doing a bit of work. It's changed from an RDL to like a conventional deadlift basically. So yeah, it's just those lifts are, that you just can't approach them. You approach them the same, but it's not going to look the same when you're reviewing feedback.
Yeah.
And if you try and like you said, if you try and grind those out like other lifts, it's just not going to happen. Like the leg extension, leg curl, like leg extensions. Yeah, you can kind of like, you're going to have some grind, like maybe a few grindy reps. Leg curls just doesn't happen with the hamstrings for most people.
Yeah. It's like we said already a couple of times in the past. Also, something like tricep, for example, it's very similar to the hamstrings. Whenever you are then coming close to your failure point, the repetitions still look fast, and then all of a sudden, the decrease in velocity is rapid. It's like from one rep to the next one, it's kind of such a steep decline that then the second one after that is already kind of your failure point, and you would have never guessed it from the outside.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Man, I'm so excited for Vienna and getting in there and trying out. The hard thing will be picking like the machines to use and going through those. And I think it's not going to be, it will be a little bit challenging. If I can leave a couple of reps in the tank, I'll be very pleased. Because I know that sounds like people are like, why would you be pleased? Because that's what the program is meant to dictate. I'll be a bit annoyed with myself if I come back on Sunday and I'm completely trashed. And I'm like, I'm meant to train on Monday.
I'm actually looking forward to just giving it more all. And I don't know what it will be like if I'm now with other people and in a new environment, whether I can really get into the zone of then a proper 1 and 0 area, because that's not my typical environment. I'm normally always by myself, and that allows me to really easily get into kind of my mindset. All right, here we go. But with other people around us and stuff, there's something that I just have to then see how things are going.
Yeah. I had to do that in Vegas a little bit because I did, but I was kind of just having fun there as well. Like it wasn't serious training, whereas this is like, and I was just like in that, I was meant to be not training so much in that week, but I just went to basically almost failure on everything. But yeah, you're right. You have to be in that mindset. And there's also that kind of, for that like 1-0 RER, for some lifts you can hype yourself up, and other lifts you shouldn't, because like I get out of control on, if I hype myself up too much for like basically legs, I just get completely out of my groove, and I get like almost shaky because I've just got this adrenaline that I can't like, it feels like my muscles are switching off. I can't control them as well as I should. Yeah. So I have to stay like kind of calm and like almost get a song on that is like motivating, but not like just crazy. Whereas like, I don't know, delts or biceps, triceps, I can just kind of fucking go wild with these isolation movements. So I completely feel you on that. So hopefully, me and Mike definitely won't be distracting you. It's just, well, we're trying not to. We'll have to see what, like, because it's going to be a distracting environment anyway, because it's just exciting. Yeah,
and you never know how you do things when you feel that you're being watched, you know? Sometimes it really helps to clean up your technique as well, and to really bring you to that next level of like pushing the RER. And sometimes it feels more like a distraction. This is something that we have to then see. I think it's time, because I want to announce it every single time that we are now doing our podcast, to actually take a short break. For then, I would love to say our sponsors, but we don't have any kind of sponsors that are running ads on our end. So this is now time for our coaching service or the minicut movement. And here comes the break, so that you're not kind of distracted as well. Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger. And here we are again. Steve, we don't have to wait the entire minute.
Oh man, you're going to be that's going to have to become a habit, because I would just completely forget to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it just helps, and thank you very much for all of the guys who gave a little bit of feedback on the last episode, because I've tried things out at the beginning of the episode, and then now looking back in hindsight, it is not the best way of then having the ads or ad placement, because you want to, of course, have people tuning in and listening, and if you're then putting an ad at the beginning of a podcast, it's just like very off-putting, and people are just like tuning out. And that's why, I think it was a very good feedback as well from someone else who said sometimes it's very confusing that while I'm talking and then the ad comes where I'm talking as well, it's just like, what is going on here, right? When you're just listening to the episode. And that's why we thought of announcing then the ads before talking any kind of further about, I don't know, leg presses and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that's confusing. And I think it's because I don't listen. I never listen back to the improvement season. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I just.
Why's that, Steve?
You don't listen to it back either, do you?
No, I'm just going through the episode, of course, to then find
I guess you do.
The timestamps, but it's not that I'm listening of like, so what did we say here?
Yeah. But it's like when it's all finally edited, you don't listen through the whole thing. So if you did, you'd probably be like, oh yeah, you'd pick that up.
Sometimes I do, though, on our podcast episodes with the experts on, because when I'm editing, I'm listening to it in a different way instead of when I were to just listen to it, where it's just like, I don't know, Eric Helms, for example, the episode, and the one with Jacob I listened to as well another time outside of editing, because I think that it was a freaking fantastic episode.
I will re-listen to those sometimes, like even old ones. Like I'll just be like, I just want to listen to that one again. But for some reason, maybe it's because it's not like you're speaking and then you're speaking again in an advert. It's like Eric speaking and then it's you coming in and saying an advert. So it's not as impactful on those. So I don't I don't know. But yeah, it's nice having this feedback, actually. Like if anyone ever has that sort of feedback, it's really helpful, because
I know it sounds cheesy, and I know that so many content creators probably do this, of like saying, hey, this content is for you guys and all that kind of stuff. But it really is this, because we are not at that size of a podcast that we can or just do our own stuff, or just don't even care what other people think about us, when it's kind of a small minority that gives us shit. The podcast episode is I feel at least like for such a small audience, and I want you guys to, of course, have a good time with us. And I just appreciate that you show up on a regular basis, listening to our chit chatter on a weekly basis. And that is just so much appreciated. And I want it to be a good experience for you instead of off-putting.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, it makes me think of, because I was thinking we do these. It was funny last time. I was thinking it, and then you said it. It was like, we don't plan these. We just come on and record, and somehow we get an hour of chit chat going, which is really useful.
Nearly 6 years, Steve.
Yeah,
that is crazy if you really think about it.
We used to, though, have a Q&A segment.
Yes.
So I would say if people really miss that, we could reintroduce that, or we could do it every other week or something.
Yeah.
Or like a segment. And then the other thing I actually said to you, Pascal, because we talked about the BNBF, and then I was like, man, it would actually be quite cool. I don't know how easy it would be, but Fuad does it on his bodybuilding podcast. I can't remember what it's called, but he does it on the Big Bodybuilding podcast, something like that, where he like brings it up on the screen, and they're like almost like judge like the lineup and stuff. It would be quite cool to maybe do like a segment like that now and then. Like especially like UK shows, we could like just pull up Five Voss's pictures or whoever's done them, and just like be like, oh, look at this person, and like, I don't know, that might be a bit too niche to do it too regularly. I just want
to say, like, guys, I don't know how many of you are really into bodybuilding. I would also assume that there are lots of people who are just interested in physique optimization. But if that's something or a segment that you're interested in, just let us know in the comment section below. And if not, then that's fine as well. We can probably also think about other ways of doing something like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it might be interesting. It would, I think, for it to work well. The thing that made me think about it is the BNBF do like a bit of a roundup at the end of the day, just like reviewing it. And I always enjoy that as a competitor and as a coach, I always pick something up from their chats there. So it's like, if you could do like a little segment, as I don't know, like 15 minutes of a roundup of like a show, or like of just reviewing some photos. I don't even know if we can easily access them, but normally you can see the winners because I'm in all the Facebook groups, so you can at least find the photos there. Anyway, on that point, I did judge this weekend.
Oh yeah, that's true. How was it?
So it was great. I actually really enjoyed the whole weekend. It was nice, like just, it was weird enough, it was nice just getting in Birmingham on Saturday evening and just like I had like a couple of hours just like in this, it was actually a big apartment just on my own. Not that it's like different here, because it was a different environment. It felt like it was, I don't know, novel. And I was just watching some Attack on Titan and stuff. And then I woke up nicely the next day and I just got into...
My man.
Yeah, where am I now in Attack on Titan? I'm on season 3 now.
All right.
It's getting... Like you said to me that you'll want to, like, you rewatch it and then things will, because I'm already picking up things where I'm like, why is he talking about that? Like, I bet that means something. Oh, this key, where's this key gone?
Yeah, this is one of those shows when you rewatch it the next time, you will see so many things that you never really have noticed in the first time watching it. And you know what I think about Attack on Titans. I get goosebumps when I'm thinking about it.
I got goosebumps.
Not kidding.
In this episode, this last episode I just watched, where they it's kind of like Game of Thrones. They're not afraid to kill off like not important characters, but you have like they're important to some of the main characters, and then they're not afraid to kill them. In most shows, they're just like, oh yeah, the main character will save them at that last moment, and I was just like, fuck, they didn't. They just fucking killed him,
and they are not coming back by any kind of. So some shows are like, all right, we killed him, and then by any kind of mysterious kind of magical thing, they are then returning because I don't know, it was just like a fan character. So you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That happens so many times. I guess that happened a bit in Naruto with with Kakashi, where he had died and then he was reborn. I was like, anyway. Or actually, that happened to Guy as well. Guy died. Sorry, I'm ruining it for people, but someone else died who was like not a main character, but then he was revived, and you're like, in some ways I was glad, in some ways I was like, Anyway,
there have been shows. Sorry for the slight tangent here. There have been shows where I like to watch shows not just in one go, but sometimes also then when it really comes out. But it's only when I really want to see the show. And then you have to wait another week to then get the answers maybe. And there have been times in the past where I was watching a show and they had kind of a cliffhanger there where then some kind of important character died. And I was just like, shit. Did he really die? I needed to Google it then and Google it like, what are the theories about it? Has he really died? Will he come back maybe at some later point? And sometimes it was just like, he's gone. Holy shit, he's gone. He can't be gone. So for example, Hunter x Hunter has it in one scene.
I haven't seen it.
When they are kind of, I don't want to spoil it, but one of those characters is being killed. And I was just like, he can't be gone. He can't be gone. And he was gone. I was like, that's not possible. At some point, he will return. Never return.
It's so powerful, though, when they do it. There's one of my favorite characters in Naruto. He dies and doesn't come back. And oh, man.
I know who you're talking or referring to.
I love this man. He's so amazing.
Yeah. I was considering actually getting that statue in here as well, because there is a statue where he's fighting the villains, and that scene, there's a statue about it, and it's such an incredible and also emotionally incredible scene as well. So yeah,
I considered him as a tattoo, but he's a bit ugly.
That's true.
So I was like, I don't know
especially
if I want that on my arm.
In that particular mode that he's in.
Yes. The people who have watched Naruto will know exactly who we mean. The people who haven't will be clueless, so that's great. So anyway, judging. It was great in part because, man, it was packed. Like, there was just so many like classes and everything, but it was quite nice because the first timers, I essentially was on the judging panel like the entire day, but there wasn't as many classes and competitors, and I judged almost every class, whereas this one I actually was off for like the first 5 classes, so it was quite nice. I got to like get warmed up to it and like view them without having the pressure of having to judge, so it kind of got me into that mode. And then it was just a fun day to be there and to kind of see the caliber of athlete, and it's so inspiring. Just like, again, I was blown away just by the camaraderie. Like, I don't remember shows being so friendly and people being so like happy for one another.
Yeah.
And so it's just so great to see all of that. But it was, I mean, did you see I mean, 4 women were made pro. That tells you something, that like there's Fit Body Pro, Figure Pro, like Bikini went pro, and the Bodybuilder went pro. That doesn't often happen.
Was it the tall bikini that went pro?
Yes. Yeah, she went pro. She was very good.
I wasn't aware that she turned pro, but I just it is apparent
she went
why
pro as well.
Why I was asking, because on that picture she looked kind of pro caliber to me.
Yeah, so it's funny because the bikini in the women's overall, they don't put the bikini in there, but they put the Fit Body, Figure, and the Bodybuilder in there. So it's, I actually would need to ask Andy why that happens and why the bikini doesn't get to go in there, but I don't know.
My question is, because I haven't really followed up on all of the classes, were there more female bodybuilder competitors this year? Because last year there was only one, right?
Yes, there was.
Cool.
The girl that won it last year came back this year, and she came third in that class.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is a very reasonable thing to say. If she came in condition, she could potentially win it, because she's got tons of muscle, but she just wasn't conditioned. Whereas the 2 ladies that came ahead of her were like, the woman that won was like as conditioned as some of the, like more conditioned than a lot of the guys, to be fair.
Yeah, crazy.
She had shredded glutes. Like, she was in, and very well balanced. She was a great bodybuilder, which is why she went pro. But yeah, there was another lady who came second, and she had like crazy upper body, like her delts and arms. I was just like flipping it, like they are mad, and her back. And then even the lady, like there was 6 in that class in the end. So yeah, it was way more. So that was really nice to see, because it's never nice when there's just one in a class. It's not nice for anyone in that scenario, really, because I wouldn't want to be one person in a class. There was none of that this year.
Very cool.
No single people in my class.
Yeah, seems like they did everything right then, because last year was the first time. This year, people have then seen what happened last year, how great of a show it was. The pictures were also great as well last year, this year as well. And yeah, it seems like they are just doing a tremendous job. And it's probably going to get better and better and more competitive over the years, because if you're just taking a look at the BNBF, for example, this year's lineup was just incredible overall. And that is something that I think that the WNBF UK will do in a couple of years, maybe next year already as well.
Yeah, it's just getting better and better. And it's nice to see people who compete in those, like the other federations, come over as well. I don't like the idea that people feel stuck in one federation. I guess if you're pro with one federation, it's a little bit different. But I like that, like as an amateur, like I like that I can go on a BNBF stage, UKFBA stage, and I want everyone to feel that they can do that way, because that's what brings out the best. Otherwise,
and especially it's just, I know it sounds a little bit condescending, but it is just bodybuilding, and most people are just doing it for themselves. So give them the platform to present their hard work and the effort they've put forth, right? For, of course, pro competitors, it's a little bit of a different thing. I totally agree with you. But for those who are maybe competing maybe only once, or maybe then for the second time or so, they have no ambitions of actually turning pro or anything alike, give them just like a platform and a stage to really just enjoy natural bodybuilding.
Yeah. And did you see the the overall men's winner?
Can't really recall. There have been so many.
He trains in DASGym.
Oh, really?
He's from Vienna. Yeah.
Ah, no, I can't really recall.
He's such an if he may be back in DASGym when we go there. He's such a nice guy. Like, it's super like this.
What's his
sort
name?
Of Max. I think it's Max. It might be Maxwell. I think it's Max of some sort. But yeah, he won I didn't realize this till afterwards, but he won like a PCA overall, which is obviously untested. So it's the quality of him is like, kind of tells you there. But he came out in the novice class, and you know what the novice class is like. You get people, you're just like, why didn't you go in the open? Because you just destroy everyone in the open as well. This guy was just, like he had everything, like the symmetry, tiny waist. He won the overall.
The overall.
Yeah, he went pro, and he was like probably definitely in the like top 5 leanest. I don't think he could really be leaner. He was fully in. But yeah, super humble, just like was shaking everyone's hand and like being super happy, and it was just like really like not like I thought I was going to win this. It was like, oh my gosh, I won. It's like, dude, look at you. But it's nice when people are like that. And so yeah, it was a nice day, and I think that's just the vibe that Andy and Steph give off. Like especially considering how much stress they must be under. And then Andy, he's in, I think he's 3 weeks out from his show that he's doing, and so he was like shredded, but like still super, like, you know what Andy's like, he's just super happy, super chirpy, and they pulled it off, and yeah, it was a great day.
Amazing. Sounds great. Did you have any kind of takeaways this time? Were you a little bit more relaxed? Were you able to see things in a different light or from a different perspective this time?
Definitely more relaxed, more confident in my decisions, and like better able to come to decisions a bit sooner. So I was more efficient in my scoring. But it's just the more I do it, the more I realize, like, especially like I think about the bodybuilding category, I had scorecards, like my men's middle height class. I had 3 people joint first on my scorecard, and that happened in a few classes, but this one I vividly remember. And that was because like some people scored really well on symmetry, but their muscularity and condition was just not there. But then someone else, like they could be winning muscularity and condition, but then they're like 3rd, 4th in their symmetry. And it's just like, and everyone knows like it's the combination of those, but it's just, I don't think many people think about it. They just think about muscularity and condition, and they think like everyone's got the same symmetry. And people also think of symmetry, and I used to, as like balance between upper and lower, but it's that, but it's also a big part of it is X frame. And you just see guys who have incredible X frames, but they need to lose more weight to come in for the condition, and they would do very well. And then you have other guys who they just don't have that, like, and it's quite genetically preset in terms of your like symmetry to some extent. It's also helped by posing. Some people need to open up more in their poses. But yeah, you just, it's just giving me a better understanding of the sport and how some of those things are outside of your control. And as me as a competitor, I'm like, I only ever really do well in the muscularity and condition round, and I get hurt with symmetry. So I want to come against guys with similarly not the best symmetry. I don't want to say shitty symmetry. Or you work on posing and you build up muscles that are going to enhance that symmetry, things like this. So yeah, it's just given me a better understanding of all of that for sure. And then the men's physique guys, I just have to say it, some of them are huge, and I want to get an understanding, and I will ask Andy and Steph here, like how big is too big? Because I know Andy said that Josh, who went pro last year, he is on the cusp of like any bigger and he'd be too big. So I was kind of using that as my marker. If people were bigger than what Josh was, I was like, they probably shouldn't be placing first, even though they're bigger and more muscular. Yeah. So like a guy, I think he came 3rd in the class, and I might have even had him lower than that because he just was huge. Like I was like, if he has a good pair of legs under those shorts, get him men's open bodybuilding, because you are going to do very well there. But yeah, it's kind of, I think it's coming kind of meaning down from the enhanced side, because the enhanced men's physique guys are huge. And so I think it's just coming down into like natural bodybuilding, where these guys are just they're just humongous. Whereas I'm like, well, these guys have smaller waists than you. They have this nicer kind of V-taper, but they're smaller and slighter than you. But to me, that's a little bit more men's physique. So that's something I want some clarification on from Andy and Steph, of like, have I got that right in my head of like where people should be placing? Because yeah, I don't know. You just look at some of the top threes, and you'll see some of the men's physique guys, and you're just like, whoo, that's a lot of size you got.
No, absolutely. Very interesting, by the way. Very interesting, especially on the men's physique and the size, and the theory about that it's probably then trickling down from the enhanced side, because we just see it, how things have evolved over the past years. When you're just taking a look at the first win from what's he called again? Buendia. What's his first name again? Buendia.
Why can't I remember either?
But you know who I'm referring to, right? The first time that he won, he was looking completely different to then his last title, and also then the standard nowadays. It's just like, it's completely different sport, basically.
Yeah, actually, one final thing I'll say is it has reinforced my analogy of top trumps within bodybuilding, in that some people have some things and some people have other things. And it's like picking and choosing your battles wisely in a sense. And it depends on what cards you're up against to whether or not you're going to do better or worse, because it's quite rare to have someone who, and to have like even a top 5 maybe that are like standout top 5, and they're very like, they could easily move up or down one place. They're like very close a lot of the time. And it's like where the top 3 could have almost gone either way. Like I said, I had scorecards that were joint. And so it's very rare that you get that one, like, I don't know, all-star top trump card. Like it was that novice guy. He was quite obviously that. It's very rare you get someone like that. And so I think that's nice, because as a competitor, for me at least, I'm like I can get in the mix, and like I can kind of climb a bit higher if I can play my cards right in a sense. Or I don't have control of that, but yeah, it's not like doom and gloom for those who are, maybe they haven't got that symmetry, or they haven't got loads of muscle, but they do have symmetry. It's like you can play with these things, and ultimately it's all about the journey, because you can't control any of that shit.
No, absolutely. And I think on this note, it's great to end then the show. We will leave tomorrow, we both, and also Mike, of course, to Vienna. That's why it's a little bit of a shorter episode this time, because I still have to edit it today so that it's actually going out on Monday. So guys, as always, thank you very much for tuning in, the support. Leave some likes, subscribes, and also then comments below. Also over on Spotify, leave a rating if that's possible for you, because it really does help, that's for sure, right? And that support is always appreciated. So guys, I leave it here. Or we leave it here, and next week we will then tune in, being completely annihilated from DASGym, hopefully, and hopefully we'll make it back, and we are not just, I don't know.
We'll just stay. We can't leave
stranded
the gym
on the airport because we are not allowed, because I don't know, we have Raptor or anything like this. So guys,
cheers,
guys. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality, and we know how to do it, and we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.